Since 2004, Iowa livestock farmers have turned to the Coalition to Support Iowa's Farmers for free, confidential, and expert assistance in raising livestock responsibly and successfully. Join us at the fence line to hear from industry experts and farmers about topics important to livestock agriculture here in Iowa. The fence line, where the gates always open. Bob Quinn here with another edition of The Fence Line. Welcome to The Fence Line, a production of the Coalition to Support Iowa's Farmers, the livestock folks here in the state of Iowa. If you would like to find out more about the programs the Coalition offers, you can do so at their website, supportfarmers.com. On this edition of The Fence Line, we're talking about farming for your future. And today we're concentrating on the cattle industry here in the state of Iowa. We recently joined with the Iowa Cattlemen's Association and the Iowa Beef Industry Council during the Cattlemen's Association's annual meeting in December. And we want to talk about cattle in your future farming operations. Now, the Iowa Cattlemen's Association and the Iowa Beef Industry Council support many projects to develop cattle feeding here in the state of Iowa. We're going to talk about expansion and grazing here in the state of Iowa. We're going to talk about funding programs available for things like fencing or maybe even adding water to new pastures that's available. And we're going to talk about adding more cattle back into your herds. We're starting off with Brian Waddingham with the Coalition, talking about some of the programs offered through the Coalition to Support Iowa's Farmers. Brian, talking Farming for Your Future Friday. We're kind of in the shadow of a cattle meeting, so we're going to be talking cattle today here on the big show and some of the opportunity for young folks to get involved in the cattle industry. And we'd love to have lots more cattle here in the state of Iowa. I don't think that's a secret. We've said that many times on the big show. And there are programs available that you folks, the Coalition, can help out with.
Yeah, that's right. We do think it's important to grow Iowa's cattle industry, and that's why we partnered with the Beef Council on this series of live remotes. But there are opportunities out there, and with the Coalition, we come out, we provide that service of citing, interpreting rules and regs, enhancing neighbor relations. But we also can go further than that and help refer those farmers to some cost share opportunities, low interest loans. So we kind of want to be that one-stop shop for livestock and poultry producers here in the state of Iowa.
Livestock in general, Brian, was an entry point for a lot of young folks in agriculture.
Yeah, I still think livestock and poultry production is the best way to get a foot in the door for agriculture. We've got some opportunities out there, and that's one of the services that we provide too, is just going out, sitting down with the farm family, talking about opportunities, and then helping them develop a plan for the future, not only for their farm, but for their family goals as well. So again, and that's a service that we provide all at no charge and completely confidential.
When we talk about the cattle industry, we talk a lot about feedlots and putting cattle in feedlots. We want to talk, though, about getting cows out there. We want to talk about increasing the cow herd here in the state of Iowa, because that's something that really, as the feedlot numbers grow and the feedlot prices grow, we tend to lose cows.
Yep. And that's something we can help with too. I know, different parts of the state, pasture land, well, in all parts of the state, pasture is becoming more expensive. It's becoming harder to get to rent. But you do have other options out there, whether it's buildings, dry lots. You've got winter feeding stations you could put out on stalks or in pastures. So again, it's just talking through all the options that are out there and having us put you in touch with the right entity that can really help talk about cost share and low interest loan programs.
And let's talk about some of those programs available to producers here in the state of Iowa. Derek Nabani is with the Iowa Department of Agriculture. Derek, we are talking farming for your future here, and we are concentrating on the cattle industry. We had the Iowa Cattlemen's annual meeting and the Iowa Beef Industry Council annual meeting here at Prairie Meadows. So today's event is also being co-sponsored by the folks with the Iowa Beef Industry Council. But I want to ask you about some of the things Brian Waddingham just told us. We want to get people involved in the cattle industry.
Yep.
We want to get more people involved in the cattle industry. And IDALS, Iowa Department of Ag and Land Stewardship, has some programs available.
Yeah, so specifically I work with the SRF, or State Revolving Fund Loan Program, and what that is, it's a low interest loan to where it maxes out at a 3% interest rate, and it can go toward the installation of any sort of water quality practice. And specifically to the livestock industry, it can cover various things like fencing or farm ponds with rotational grazing, closing of an existing feedlot and moving animals under roof, or any sort of manure management or manure storage.
Now you mentioned closing of an existing feedlot. So help me out there.
Yep. So unfortunately, it can't go towards new operations, so it has to be a current operation.
Okay. And then you can move those animals indoors.
Yep. So it'll cover the closure of the lot itself and the construction of the building.
What's the basis for what's the underlying theme for this?
For water quality, basically. And so
water quality.
Yep. And so at any point that we can assign a water quality benefit to a practice like that, it's something that we could offer the loan on.
Well, we'd like to get more cattle grazing out in the countryside, and if you've been out there lately, you understand that we have removed most of the fencing in Iowa.
Yep.
And so you mentioned fencing program.
Yep. So anything that's associated with rotational grazing. So it'll pay for the fencing on the perimeter. It'll pay for the installation of the farm pond or watering system with it, or if you need to drill a well for that watering system.
And what's the cost share up to?
So with the cost share, since it's a loan, it's maxes out at $500,000 per borrower. And the key of that is that it's per borrower, not per project. And so theoretically, if you have a partnership or a family member that's in your operation, everybody can apply individually for the loan. And,
Okay.
Yep. And since it maxes out at that 3%, it's extremely competitive with interest rates right now, especially with 6, 7, 8% interest rates.
And what's the payback time period?
It's 10 to 15 years. And so typically with a livestock loan, it's 15 years.
So who should be looking at this?
Pretty much anybody that's interested in starting farming or potentially looking at improving your operation. I mean, it's really just a way to overall improve the operation that you have currently.
And we're talking cattle today.
Yep.
But I'm thinking other livestock that graze in Iowa, typically sheep and or goats that cover any species livestock?
Yep, you can basically assume if it's any sort of a grazing species that we would cover it for the loan.
Now, let me ask you this, because we have been hearing about some new fencing practices, and there are invisible fences out there, and people are going to laugh about it because they say, we've looked at your place, and you've got a lot of invisible fence on it. But this is a real deal. I mean, this is legitimate for cattle in particular, is invisible fencing, and I think that's going to be kind of the way of the future. The way I understand it, there's nothing physical there. In other words, you don't actually bury a wire there.
Okay. Yeah.
You set it up by geo-fencing. So you pull your iPad out, and you make a circle around your farm, okay, and that will set up some kind of a perimeter that you train that cow to follow. I'm not saying you got cows with iPads out there, but basically that's how you do that. I mean, is that something that's on the horizon for you guys to look at too?
Yeah, absolutely. With the loan, that we have a lot of flexibility in what we can cover, and we're always interested in new cutting technology like that. And so we always encourage people to where if it isn't even on our application that it qualifies, still reach out and apply, and we'd love to take a look at it.
Do you have funding limitations?
Yes, just the $500,000 per borrower is mostly our limitations.
Well, I'm talking about overall.
We do. We have a cap that we haven't really hit yet, and we have a decent amount of money within the loan program that we could cover it. So we're always open for applications and encourage people to apply.
Any geography that you're looking at? Any specific areas in the state?
Not really. I mean, we get most of our loans from the hot spots, so you think some of the northeast Iowa, a little bit of northwest Iowa, and southern Iowa, depending on the soil conservation part of it. But, yeah, we're open statewide and willing to accept any and all applications.
Well, yeah. Well, off the top of your head, what are some of the projects you've funded?
So we've done a lot of buildings, and so the buildings and the rotational grazing stuff has been popular as of late, and especially I think with the drought, we've been getting a lot more watering systems, specifically with the farm ponds or the drilling of wells. So I think it's a lot of people just trying to adapt to the elements and adapt to everything, including the market out there. Now,
short of calling you on your personal cell phone, which I haven't been able to wrestle out of you yet.
Nights and weekends, always welcome.
Laugh about that now.
Yeah.
But tell me what the first steps are.
Yep. So the first step would be to reach out to the local NRCS office. Each county has one across the state, and they'd be able to help you with some of the potential things for what qualify, what doesn't qualify, and then also if you look online, if you just search Iowa Stock, it'll come up with information on the loan as well as the application.
What was that again? Iowa SRF Livestock.
Iowa SRF Livestock.
Interesting.
You're listening to The Fence Line, a production of the Coalition to Support Iowa's Farmers, farming for your future, talking cattle industry. As Brian Waddingham told us a little bit ago, the NRCS office also has some programs available. Let's catch up with Jeff Mathias with the state NRCS folks.
We're talking about farming for your future with the Coalition to Support Iowa's Farmers, kind of concentrating on the cattle industry and programs available to get more cattle grazing in particular, Jeff, what I want to ask you about. And our CS office has some programs available that would be conducive for grazing cattle.
Yeah, that's right, Bob. We have plenty of programs available, money available to help people with going ahead and getting cattle out there grazing on pasture lands. We also have it set up so that we're getting a little more help on being able to graze on the croplands with the aftermath and like the cover crops. We have a practice itself that's called annual forages for grazing systems, where we can actually put some annual forages in and then go ahead and graze them like on corn stalks or someplace too.
So you must have a program for fencing and things like that then.
We have some help for fencing. We're mainly on the interior fence for what we're paying for paddock divide fence for the people that like to do the rotation grazing system.
All right.
But we are able to help out with some exterior fence when somebody's taken ground that was in CRP and they've had it in CRP and the CRP contract's coming out. We will help pay for some of the fence that's their responsibility. And also if somebody's looking at some crop ground and, last couple of years we haven't had too good of yields and thought, I'm not making money on crop on this, I want to convert it to pasture, we can help pay for the exterior fence on that pasture area too.
Now, not that I'm speaking from experience here, but if you have some CRP ground, lots of times that might need some improving before you can graze cattle, because these cows just won't gain weight on cedar trees. And we seem to have a lot of those on CRP ground. So what I'm asking, do you have a program to help improve that quality of pasture as well?
Yes. Yeah, we can definitely help improve that. We need to look and see what we have out there going on where we really need to start. Yeah. But, you mentioned the trees. We can help do some tree clearing on pasture land. I would say more brush clearing. As you mentioned, the cedar trees, that's more of a brush issue that we're trying to take care of, where we can come in. And some of the other smaller brush type stuff, we're not going to help pay somebody to go tear down a forest to turn it into pasture ground, but we will help on taking out some of those on something that historically has been a grassy area or has been cropland such as a CRP.
Yeah, cedar trees they're tough. Let me tell you, I have seen them growing out of the side of a rolled up bale of hay. So they'll take root just about any place. You mentioned water, and you have programs to get water out there if you're doing some grazing as well.
Yeah, like you just said with the CRP, that's one of the biggest things we have to deal with. Even on our existing pasture land, we probably don't have water adequately distributed for the cattle to drink out there. Ideally, the cow should not have to walk more than 800 feet to go get water from where it's grazing.
800 feet?
800 feet.
So if you're paddock grazing, you could be putting a lot of water fountains out there.
Yeah, if you're paddock grazing, you can be putting a lot of, basically the way I say it is 800 feet. If you take a 40-acre field, you square 40, and, we all have square 40s that we're pasturing. You put one water in the middle of each 40 acres. So, when we're looking at a 200-acre pasture or some of that, in some of our areas where we have the larger pastures and we only have one water source, we have cattle not utilizing the grass far away from that water source.
That is Jeff Mathias, and as Jeff points out, the best way to find out more about these programs is stop in at your local NRCS office. Well, I mentioned our overall theme today is trying to get more cattle here in the state of Iowa. And sometimes that means developing better feed rations. The Fence Line microphones had a chance to make a trip to the campus of Iowa State University and stop by the newly opened feed mill. Now, the feed mill is located just west of Ames on the south side of Highway 30. It is a full-fledged research facility and also used as a teaching facility for students at Iowa State. The Iowa Beef Industry Council is sponsoring some of this research. Mike Anderson with the Iowa Beef Industry Council talks about the importance of developing new programs and new products when it comes to feeding cattle.
Mike Anderson again, talking about the beef industry with us. Mike, tell me a little bit of background on the Iowa Beef Industry Council and the things you're looking for when you support a facility like this. Why is that important to the beef producer?
Yeah, we here at the Iowa Beef Industry Council really stress a lot with our research dollars, and that comes funding from our state check off that 50 cents per head that producers pay. And so we spend pretty close to $500,000 each year on research projects, and one of our big partners is Iowa State University with those professors and extension specialists. And so we really see this Kent feed mill as a potential huge partner. Obviously, the number one feed stuff for cattle is corn, and so with a feed facility like that, we see some potential projects in the future that we could help fund.
And you talk about checkoff dollars, and checkoff dollars are used for, like you mentioned, research and promotion and things like that. But this is a way to really add value back into that row crop here in the state of Iowa.
Yeah, I think so too. And as Dirk said before, they've got some really unique processing capabilities there at the feed mill that they can, do some things that maybe the large scale feed mills can't. And so we could really take advantage of that with some of our feeding trials with feedlot cattle and feeder calves here throughout the state to work on efficiency and carcass quality and things of that nature, which in the end results in a better quality product for our consumers.
Well, we certainly produce things that consumers like. We know that, and we'd certainly like to see more cattle production here in the state of Iowa. We'd like to start growing those numbers as well. But when you're investing in a project like this, and when you guys get in there and look at different projects, why is a feed mill like this really important to the cattle producer?
Well, we really stress we've got some main categories that our research committee here at the Beef Industry Council looks at and that we want to target. But we really value the voice of the producer and what issues and what topics are they seeing, out on their livestock facility that they need help with. We've done a great job, I think, of doing that and really focusing on projects that are going to return value to that beef producer specifically in our case. And I think using a facility like this really lends well to our research committee and the priorities that we're looking to fund here in Iowa. And so we're really excited.
Well, the other thing, too, Mike, and we don't want to lose sight of it, but the product coming out of here as well as students, and we would love to have those students stay right here in the state of Iowa and work in the beef industry.
Absolutely. Yeah, we, our population here in Iowa might be, staying steady to decreasing a little bit. We do a great job of educating our kids, and then sometimes they leave our state. And so I think for the size that we are of an ag state in the country, we're number 4 in feedlot cattle production and number 7 in the country in overall cattle production. And so, we may not be the biggest state in numbers, but we've got quality kids in Iowa State and other ag universities here in the state of Iowa produce great young kids that we hope to bring back to work in facilities like this and keep Iowa agriculture number 1.
Mike Anderson with the Iowa Beef Industry Council on some projects being funded at the feed mill at Iowa State University. And as Mike pointed out, the importance of these projects is to make sure we're getting the most out of our feedstocks when it comes to efficiency and putting beef on the hoof. Reminder again, you're listening to The Fence Line. The Fence Line, a production of the Coalition to Support Iowa's Farmers, the livestock folks here in the state of Iowa. If you would like more information about this program or any of the programs the Coalition offers, you can check out their website, supportfarmers.com. Let's get back to our visit now with Mike Anderson with the Iowa Beef Industry Council. We're talking with the Coalition to Support Iowa's Farmers today, Farming for Your Future Friday here on the big show. Mike Anderson with us with the Iowa Beef Industry Council. Just wrapped up your meeting today, Mike. Let's talk about some of the other projects the Beef Industry Council funds with the beef checkoff here in Iowa.
Yeah, Bob, today we had our annual meeting and was a chance for me to brag about the great staff that I get to work with here at the Beef Industry Council and highlight just a fraction of the programs that they get to work with throughout the entire year. So really had some neat wins this year and some expanded programs. A lot of it's been with our consumer reach as far as the Build Your Base program and targeting colleges and partnerships with University of Iowa, UNI, Iowa State, and Drake, accentuating the positives of protein for athletes. And so one of the things we think about is sports nutrition, and not too many think about promoting beef in that aspect, but we really hit that hard this past year, and we're looking to expand that program next year with local high schools and teens as far as utilizing beef as that source of protein for athlete recovery, after they have a practice or a game, how they can replenish those nutrients and energy, and protein is a great source for that, and obviously we want beef to be at the center of the plate for that.
Well, the checkoff program, again, we were talking with Mike a little bit ago, and he's talking about a 12-to-1 return on your investment. So they're very important. Also worth hundreds of dollars into the export market, but the enhancement, you can add value back into that carcass is what it's all about, really. And you mentioned program here in the state, but you also support programs outside the state of Iowa. And the reason you do that, and I think you're probably going to tell me the same thing, is that's where the population base is.
Correct. Yep, we've got a great program. We partner with states throughout the country, basically more so probably on the coast. We work with New York, Pennsylvania, Arizona, and some of those more highly populated areas. You know, you think in the state of Iowa, we're kind of preaching to the choir when we promote cattle and the ag industry in Iowa, but we've got to shoot for those highly populated areas where, you know, they don't know where their food comes from. They buy it at a grocery store, but they don't know the quality food supply that the U.S. produces, and especially here in Iowa, we've got that good old corn-fed beef that folks love, and so we really want to work on promoting that. And so a lot of the dollars that we project out to those other states really has a great value of return, and so they, you know, obviously are very appreciative to us for the dollars that they can utilize to promote beef.
Well, some of the things that have been developed right here in the state of Iowa, we have a thing that we enjoy called the Hot Beef Sunday. And that was developed right here in the state of Iowa, although in California they want to take claim to it at the county fair there in Orange County. That's not true because it was developed right here at the Iowa State Fairgrounds. Another thing we worked on was a cut, and I'm talking about the Iowa Beef Industry Council's checkoff dollars. The flat iron cut was improved a lot, and so was that shoulder tender cut, which I absolutely love. So there's a lot of things you've done that have been very rewarding to cattle producers.
Yes, and it's great you brought that up. We partnered with Iowa State University with their meats laboratory, and they've done a lot of culinary education with groups. You've got those meat counter guys and gals at fairways and Hy-Vees and those types of deals. And you've got, you know, not everybody can afford a $16 per pound ribeye these days. And so with the prices at the grocery stores staying pretty high, really utilizing those underutilized cuts that are cheaper. There's kind of a hot one now. It's called the Denver steak, which is tremendous. So if you call up Fairway Hy-Vee ahead of time, have them prepare a Denver steak.
What's that cut?
Well, it comes from the loin area, but it's just a different portion of that. It's got great marbling, so get your taste in there, and it's running maybe close to $9-10 a pound, which isn't super cheap, but it's better than the higher cost New York strips or ribeyes. So we're really working with those folks in the meat lab on helping those culinary people come up with different cuts, and then we're hopefully going to work on a program to provide recipes for those underutilized cuts as well.
No, that's exactly what the checkoff's intended for, is research and also marketing and promotion. So, hey, thanks so much for what you guys do throughout the year and for stopping by today.
Thanks, Bob.
Talk to Brian Waddingham here to wrap things up. Brian Waddingham, Coalition Support Iowa's Farmers. Brian, we've been kind of centering on the cattle industry today and will for the next few weeks as well. But a lot of the things we talk about are available on your website, and there's lots of other information available out there. So who should be looking at that, and how can we find out more?
If you're looking to get into livestock production or you're an existing farmer looking to grow, I would encourage you to visit our website, supportfarmers.com, or give us a call anytime at 800-932-2436. No matter what you're proposing to do or want to do today, there are rules that apply that could have changed since the last time you had to build a barn or a feedlot. So we're only a phone call away, and we are 100% confidential and at no charge.
Let me expand on that, the rules a little bit, because here in the state of Iowa, I think all rules are going to be under scrutiny. They may not change, but then again, if you don't watch them and look at them, you may get caught by surprise.
Yeah, there's 250 pages of rules that apply to livestock and poultry farmers today, and there are maybe some subtle nuances on how those rules can be interpreted. But that's one thing the coalition can do, is come right out and really assess your situation and tell you if you have any issues or would if an environmental inspection were to occur by DNR or EPA.
Yeah, and we want to keep Cody busy out there. Young Cody gets out and does your farm business for you. Hope takes care of lots of things on the website and the Green Farmstead Partner Program, all available through the Coalition to Support Iowa's Farmers.
And with that, we're getting towards the end of the fence line today, friends. During the program today, we have talked about everything from promoting that end beef product to consumers,
to maybe projects working on better feed efficiency through the feed mill at Iowa State University and continuing projects there, all the way up to funding programs to promote and help cattle grazing here in the state of Iowa. If you'd like to find out more about any of these or funding programs, you hop on that website, supportfarmers.com. My name is Bob Quinn, and I'll catch you on the next edition of The Fence Line.